Aye, ladies and gentlemen. Krollo Lucifer is one of the strongest and most feared villains in the Hunter x Hunter series, as evidenced by the fight with Silva and Zeno Zoldyck. He's a calm, intelligent, and charismatic guy and seems to be a born leader and able to hold the troop together. In fact, Old Man Zeno praises the Phantom Troop leader's potential, stating that he would probably lose in a head-on fight with Krollo. So our boy over here originated from Meteor City, a junkyard city inhabited by outcasts. The city is known by less, and people who live there don't exist in any official records. One day, he was heading in his early teenhood along with Franklin and Shalnark and found a new VHD tape in one of the garbage dumps. They started running the tape, and Krollo decided to translate the film content. Later, they created a dubbed version which turned it into the show for the kids to enjoy. One day though, Sadasa was nowhere to be found, and he found the dismembered body of the guy, sending him on a revenge mission. Now, by making Meteor City a city full of crime to find Sadasa's killers, the plan was the beginning of the Phantom Troop. Krollo's Skills Hunter is an ability so unique it can only belong in the specialization category. He can easily face just about any adversity and has the confidence and authority to back it up. This guy's ability also appears in the form of a book with a red handprint on the front of it, and inside is a record of all the stolen abilities that he has, meaning his Hunter ability allows him to see the NEN abilities of others. But for him to steal, he does need to meet a couple conditions. He has to see the ability with his own eyes, ask the target questions about the ability, put their hand on the handprint, and all of the above must be completed in about an hour. Despite how many challenges it poses for him, there's no denying that it's one of the strongest and most dangerous abilities in the setting. As he wields this ability, he also comes to cross paths with another Nen user, Kurapika. Kurapika is the last survivor of the Kurta clan and takes the role of the main protagonist in the York New City and Succession Contest arc. He's a blacklist hunter and current leader of the organization founded by Light. Kurapika is a cool and intelligent individual with pretty vast knowledge, but he's reticent, not opening up to people pretty easily and pretty judgmental. His heart is said to be poisoned with sadness and hatred, having been traumatized by losing everyone he loved by the age of 12. So in other words, he's an average anime protagonist. His goal is to avenge his clan and the remaining Scarlet Eyes. Now, the Phantom Troop hunted down and killed all the members of the Kurta clan, but Kurapika managed to escape. So his hatred and path of vengeance towards the Phantom Troop allowed him to obtain some of the most powerful abilities. He took the Hunter's exam, hoping to become a hunter, managed to pass it with a couple of his buddies, and ended up learning the art of Nen. In an absolutely dastardly turn of events, he then, in short order, kills Uvojin, removes the Nen abilities of Krollo, the troop's leader, and decides to track down his clan's eyes and take them all back. Now, even with all this power, one question remains. If Kurapika were to face Krollo again today, could he come out victorious? Maybe. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Anyway, Kurapika is exceptionally strong even without Nen, which we can see during the Hunter's exam arc. He's come a pretty long way since then, slowly climbing his way to the top, and while Kurapika is basically a conjurer, he can temporarily transform into a specialist when his Kurta's eyes glow scarlet with rage. He also uses the conjuration abilities like Chain Jail and Judgment Chain when necessary, but can switch over to the specialization techniques like Emperor Time and Stealth Dolphin. He uses conjuration type with 100% efficiency. His powers are divided into levels, force, and accuracy, and when he uses Emperor Time, his level and all of his Nen abilities remains the same, but his force and accuracy are greatly increased. Though powerful, it comes with the caveat that every second of using the ability shortens his lifespan by an hour. Talking of powerful Nen, let's take a look at Chimera Ant and former squad captain Leel's squad Hina. Referred to as Hiren before changing her name, Hina is quite cheerful and childish, and she likes having her life on her own terms. Her personality is that of an average teenage girl, and she worries about the effect that her ability has on her figure. And although many of her abilities remain ambiguous, she's fully capable of wielding Nen. She's one of the few specialists in Hunter x Hunter and has quite a lot to add to the story. Now, her specialization is referred to as Exorcism, allowing her to neutralize Nen-based curses and hexes, storing them in her... Bro, what incarnation is this nonsense? Storing them? Hold up. Y'all, I am reading the wiki right now. Storing them in her belly and causing her to appear pregnant. The more intense and powerful a curse, the bigger her stomach grows. Bro, who wrote this? She mentions that she regrets choosing Exorcism as her ability because of the way it ruins her figure, but it is a pretty rare and powerful skill to possess nonetheless. Exorcism is occasionally discussed in the story, although professional exorcists may not be necessary for specialists. Hina somehow acquires and masters this unique power despite having zero training or knowledge on the topic because she is simply built different. Hina's not been seen in combat yet, but as a chimera ant, she's stronger than a regular human. According to Welfin, she's not particularly powerful, although Leo seems to consider her one of the most powerful fighters in the squad with the exception of himself. She does show off her strength when she lifts and tosses away a giant piece of rubble that was pinning Bizef down. She also demonstrates that she has considerable durability, since a punch from the Nen using Rammet did not leave her with permanent or visible injury. Her ability could have pretty far-reaching implications, like if she were to face off against a curse user or even exercise one of the Phantom Troop's dangerous abilities. How might that change the tide of battle? Anyway, weird and definitely not fetishistic nonsense aside, let's go move on to another guy, Nen user Pakunoda. Now, Pakunoda is a member of the Phantom Troop, originally hailing from Meteor City, and she was able to help uncover information and secrets for the troop, which is why the other members value her so much. Now, sadly, y'all, she gets capped. She gets absolutely zeroed, sacrificing her life to help the spider, a feat daring enough that even her enemies were pretty surprised by it. Pakunoda exudes an air of self-confidence that could be intimidating to other people. She was completely loyal to Crawlo. She even went against the troop and Crawlo's own, saying that the group's survival comes before the survival of the individual to rescue him. Her Nen ability gives her the power to read other people's thoughts. She can find out the opponent's Nen ability, or in situations such as requiring some form of extortion or blackmail and sharing information. Shalnark even stated that Pakunoda's abilities are a rare breed. When she's pursuing Gon and Kahlua, she also shows that she's proficient in Zetsu. Pakunoda's specialization techniques are psychometry and memory bomb, both of which loosely related to each other. Psychometry is basically a lie detector, producing results with near-perfect precision, trying to fool her by creating irrelevant conscious thoughts or false information is near impossible. The information she collects is pretty useful in exposing weaknesses and secrets, especially in finding out the opponent's Nen ability. Meanwhile, Pakunoda could delve into people's minds and read their purest memories simply by touching them and asking what she wanted to know. Upon uncovering those memories and knowledge, she could use a memory bomb to implant those memories or her own memories into someone else's head with a conjured bullet. If someone were shot with their own memories, it would erase them from their mind completely, and this eventually gives her access to the intel and knowledge of every soul she comes into contact with. Now, if we're talking about manipulation, we definitely gotta hit up our boy Neferpito. Nicknamed Pito, which I'm gonna stick with because it's way easier, this genderless cat humanoid chimera ant thing is the firstborn of the Chimera Ant King's 3 royal guards. They serve as one of the main antagonists of the Chimera Ant arc. They're very loyal to the king and would easily sacrifice themselves for him, and of all the 3 royal guards, Pito is the most curious, getting easily distracted and loving to play. According to Shiapuff, Pito would get carried away when having fun, much like, a cat. Our little agender fellow over here radiated so much Nen aura that even Neteru claimed that the Chimera Ant was stronger than them. They would develop their skills way faster than the other guards, proving themselves to be a superior learner. Pito can quell any conflict amongst the lower-ranked Chimera Ants by merely raising their overwhelming 10. Now, as part of the Royal Guard, Pito's very existence is predicated on the safety and well-being of King Miriam. In addition, Pito displayed what some may regard as a sixth sense. They got extreme physical prowess, puppet-like abilities, and while the puppeteering can be labeled as manipulation and emitter skills, after emanating their aura in the shape of a clown-esque puppeteer, they can not only move it, but also make it speak and have it use Nen, regardless of whether the body is a Nen user. If the corpse is that of a Nen user, Pito can have it use the Nen ability. Rather than that, Pito's Dr. Blythe power is clearly more specialized. Dr. Blythe allows Pito to conjure a big balloon-like puppet capable of healing all sorts of wounds, completely reattaching a lost arm, fixing a broken bone, or even performing full surgery. We see these skills be useful quite a lot as they can keep them and those around them alive. So this brings up a question: which Nen user would you want to see face off against Pito in an all-out fight? Speaking of Nen and Nen specialists, we set our eyes on a prodigy, Neon. Neon is a spoiled and self-centered little brat of a young woman, throwing tantrums whenever she doesn't get the thing she wants. She's shown to be childlike and lacking empathy for others, but she's also shown to possess capabilities of emotion when she cares more about Eliza, who is grieving, than the Scarlet Eyes, offering to return home instead of staying in Yorknew any longer. Neon is the daughter of Light Nestrad of the Nestrad family and a flesh collector. Neon is a pretty capable Nen user despite not having trained in the ways of Nen, making them a prodigy. Her specialist Nen ability is called Lovely Ghostwriter, which is a phantom-type writer thing. Her Lovely Ghostwriter makes her desirable for her father's mafia companions and others who paid for her services, and her father exploits this ability to rise in the ranks of the mafia. Neon is aware of the leverage she has with her father, and the relationship mainly consists of trying to get as much from each other as possible. Using this technique, Neon can make accurate predictions in the form of poetic verse with 4 or 5 quatrains of 4 lines each. Each verse represents a week of the current month, and typically events referenced in the poem are presented as metaphors. Inauspicious fortunes always contain advice, and misfortunes if warnings are heeded. But as long as the target's date of birth, blood type, and name is possessed, lovely ghostwriter can produce a metaphorical string of lines that vaguely describe certain inevitable events. If they're not there in person, she can require a picture of them to be present. The ability was obviously compelling and desired, which is why Krallo later steals it. Now, speaking of awesome abilities, we got Melioran, whose Nen ability makes him unbeatable in the art of stealth. Now, Melioran is a pacifistic chameleon-like chimera ant and a unique character from the series Hunter x Hunter. Melioran is generally good-natured, being one of the few chimera ants to leave the colony. He's also pretty eccentric among them, as he dislikes fighting and killing. He's also got some weird dialogue quirks, like the fact that he'll speak theatrically and pretend not to be interested in things he actually wants to talk about, ending up talking about them nonetheless. He's also pretty understanding, which is shown when he notices Kalua's sadness during the palace invasion. His Nen aura is nothing short of extraordinary. As a chameleon-human ant hybrid, he can turn himself invisible, albeit with a couple of added benefits. Under the influence of his perfect technique, what he essentially does is become imperceptible to all of the senses, including his opponent's N. The God's Accomplice ability is also a pretty impressive upgrade, allowing the Chimera Ant to apply his perfect plans to anyone in direct contact with him. But he believes he must train the individual or agree to partner with them for the invisibility to work for both of them simultaneously. In a prior life, he was a resident of NGL and went by the name Jail. Melioran played a significant role in taking down Miriam. Though Melioran's Chimera Ant status make him appear untrustworthy, he reveals his secret to Gon, despite Gon being an enemy to his kind. Gon's decision to trust Melioran's intentions proves worthwhile, as the abilities give the Chimera Ant extermination team an edge over the Royal Guard. Melioran repeatedly risks his life to keep specific members of the Chimera Ant extermination team hidden until the right moment. His actions on the battlefield prove his reliability as an unlikely ally. And speaking of unlikely events and personalities, very few come close to the twisted mind of Omikage. Now, Omikage was a member of the Phantom Troop who would later be replaced by Ahsoka. He is depicted as a cold, twisted man with the sole desire of making puppets out of people, but despite killing and making a puppet out of his younger sister Retz, he still cared for her to some degree and would become angry and distressed at the insinuation that his sister was sad with her life as a puppet. He claimed his love of puppets was sparked by his sister, and he also believed that life only had meaning if it is eternal, and thought of humans as being rotten and imperfect. Omikage's Soul Doll is a special ability that allows him to duplicate others as a soul doll, which is basically a puppet. This ability made him one of the strongest Phantom Troop members until he got replaced. Omikage can create a soul doll of a person based on his adjacent target thoughts. This doll would appear and have the conscience of the imagined person and emulate their memories and abilities. But the doll is not complete until it absorbs someone's eyes as their own, allowing the target's eyes to see through the doll. When the doll is defeated, the eyes are turned back to the true owner's body. This allows Omikage to control people and access their abilities easily, but the dolls have been known to develop their own persona after a while. In a group of cold-hearted Nen users like Omikage, Leal was in a group of his own. Now, Leal was a chimera ant that resembled an anthropomorphic lion. Not much is known about his past, except that he remembered his past life as a lion, and before the death of the chimera ant queen, he was known as Hagya and was one of the most particularly disloyal squadron leaders. But while he was alive, his own squad was fully loyal to him. Leal, for the most time, was the laid-back and collected chimera ant. But he did have a cruel side to him. Like other chimeras, he enjoyed killing humans and even remarked that killing them was highly addictive. He was also very socially proficient, which was displayed through the tactics he employed to gain other people's Nen abilities. Leal isn't born with specific powers, but he obtains them after spending 72 hours wrapped inside of one of Puff's cocoons. His rental pod ability is a fun ability similar to Krallo's Skill Hunter, except it can only borrow someone else's Nen powers and not steal them. Although there are conditions to fulfill, there's no doubt that this skill gave Leal endless potential at his fingertips. Firstly, he needed to know the ability or see it be used, and secondly, he had to do the owner a favor and speak a phrase along certain lines. This would set an unspoken agreement between him and the owner and allow him to use the ability whenever he wants. But he loses access to any borrowed techniques after 60 minutes, which is a pretty short time limit. A couple abilities we've already seen him steal in the show include Satellite Dragonflies and Inamura. In other parts, from one demon user to another, a nen user, Aluka, has her own experience in the form of Nanika. Now, before Aluka's formal introduction, Silva describes her as a dark and uncontrollable child. He claims that Aluka has no soul because of the circumstances of her birth and cannot feel emotions. However, once reunited with her closest brother Killua, Aluka displays an affectionate, simple, and lovable personality. She's usually very happy about Killua and trusts him completely, likely because he's the only one to show her compassion, and she usually calls him Big Brother. Aluka was the second child of Silva and Zoldyck, and under unknown circumstances got possessed by a mysterious dark continent creature, which her family named Nanika. Nanika's real appearance is unknown, but when it manifests, it tinges Aluka's sclera, irises, and mouth pitch black, also causing the latter to appear larger. Much like Aluka, Nanika is very fond of Killua, whom it fondly calls by name. While Aluka herself has no abilities, her other form Nanika is capable of granting wishes to whoever fulfills her request, but failure to comply more than 3 times will usually result in the victim's death. For example, if ordered to heal, Nanika can erase the negative effect of the nen and restore the victims to how they were before they needed the healing. So, we've come to the end of the list, and we can say that specialists excel manipulating nen in unconventional ways, creative ways, and giving them a lot of versatility in battles. But with such diverse powers at play, who truly stands out as the strongest specialist of Hunter x Hunter? Kurapika, Chrollo, or P2, or just anyone else? Who do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below.